Throughout NFL history, no position's value has changed as much as the running backs. For half a century, you could look back at NFL champions, and their halfback was arguably the most important player on the team. From the 40s to the end of the 90s, there were so many great halfbacks to touch a football, including but not limited to Jim Brown, Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, Gale Sayers, Bo Jackson, Eric Dickerson, and Barry Sanders. Now, some of these players didn't win a championship, but the fact that they were the workhorse of their offense still remained the same. We just don't see that in the NFL anymore. Teams are not willing to pay the running back position anymore because of the changes to the game and the fast-paced passing attack that has taken over football as a whole. We have seen this very recently with players including Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard, who are all held as some of the best running backs in the NFL, but didn't get paid and get a contract extension recently. So I want to talk why that is happening in the NFL and if there will be a change in the future. Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the channel, and today I'm going to be talking about the running back dilemma that has been going on in the NFL, and specifically we can talk about Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard, and Josh Jacobs like I mentioned in the intro, as they will all be playing on the franchise tag this year as they didn't get contract extensions going forward. Starting off with Saquon Barkley and the Giants, he did not get a contract extension, and it was said that they were only $1 to $2 million off, which for a contract overall, it seems like they weren't that far off, but the Giants didn't want to give him that extra money. Now, Saquon is an interesting player as he was the workhorse of the offense last year. Though Daniel Jones had a very good career year, the wide receiver core was pretty bad, and for having that wide receiver core, bad putting it lightly, and Daniel Jones having such a great year is another reason why they decided to pay Daniel Jones instead of Saquon Barkley. Seems like the front office would rather pay the quarterback and invest in some wide receivers and tight end position as they traded for Darren Waller, as they believe that Daniel Jones will have another good year that will pick it up. So even despite being the workhorse of this offense, Saquon Barkley wasn't given an extension this year because of his injury history. It's very hard to extend a guy who you're not completely sure if he'll be able to be on the field for throughout the whole season and the seasons that you're going to continue to pay him for. Now, this isn't necessarily Saquon's fault overall, but the reason why running backs aren't being paid is because they get injured so often, as we have seen. Comparing the running back position to any other position, maybe the only close one would be wide receivers, as we see a lot of wide receiver injuries, but teams go out there with 5 or 6 wide receivers a game. Most teams only go and suit up and play 2 or 3 running backs. A lot of teams really only have that one guy that they go to and maybe a third down guy. But running back injuries are so common at this point that teams are scared to pay them, even if they put up these fantastic numbers, like we've seen from Saquon when he's healthy. That's the key word. When he's healthy, he can produce, but the Giants weren't committed to paying him if they're not sure if he can stay healthy or not. Now, the situation with Tony Pollard is a little bit different with the Cowboys because of their history within the past few years. Giving Ezekiel Elliott that extension and then him absolutely falling off of a cliff is a reason why they're kind of staying away with that with Tony Pollard. Another reason is Zeke fell off a cliff and Tony Pollard came in and is playing amazing and has proven that he is one of the best running backs in the NFL up to this point. They felt comfortable getting rid of Ezekiel Elliott because they were paying Tony Pollard a second running back salary, but now that he's gotten so good and Ezekiel Elliott is gone, he wants the big payday. But the Cowboys know that history will come back to bite them, and if they pay Tony Pollard, he might go down the same path as Ezekiel Elliott. I know Ezekiel Elliott was a little different, as he was kind of not the best in the offseason, to put it lightly. There's a lot of things going on with him with his weight in the offseason, injuries, etc. But I do think that the Cowboys do believe in Tony Pollard. They just don't want to pay him essentially this season. And if they do have a good season out of him, I do think he could get a big payday next year. But it's happened with them before, and I think that's why the Cowboys are staying away from it. One team that did commit to the running game, and they gave their running back a 4-year, $50 million contract with $25 million of it guaranteed, was the Titans. Derrick Henry, when he was on the field, was arguably one of the best offensive players in the NFL. This last season, he came in 9th in MVP voting overall, which is fantastic, especially from the running back position, as the MVP is essentially a quarterback award. And the Titans haven't essentially been a Super Bowl contender, but they had some very good years where they were in the AFC Championship and contending for that Super Bowl with Derrick Henry. But now it seems like he's getting towards the end of his career, or at least the Titans believe that, as a running back's career seems to kind of fall off after the age of 30 at this point. I do think that he has a lot of good years left, at least 3 or 4, but the Titans probably will let him go, as they already paid out pretty much all of his guaranteed money, and he's going to be making $10 million this year, but after that he will be a free agent, so it'll be interesting to see a team that did commit to the running game, what will happen to them, as they were contenders, but the team has started to fall off, especially at the quarterback position, and they are trying to bolster up that wide receiver position, signing DeAndre Hopkins. So if the Titans are contenders this year and they still are very heavy in the run game, I would like to see them sign Derrick Henry back, but with all these running backs going up for a new contract next year with Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Derrick Henry, just to name those 4, looking for a new contract, it'll be interesting. There is one team, though, if I am a running back, that I will be looking at throughout the next few years, and that is the Atlanta Falcons, who just invested a top 10 pick in Bijan Robinson, who was arguably the best college football player going into this draft. I don't think it would be a hot take at all to say that he will be the best player coming out of this draft class, just because he was so dynamic in college as a running back and a receiving threat for Texas. Now, like I said, if I was a running back, I would be looking at the Falcons, as Bijan Robinson will be making the most amount of money out of any running back this year at over $10 million, which is very interesting to look at. But if I'm a team looking at him throughout the next few years, it will be interesting to see if the Falcons go heavy into that run game, because if they do, with a guy that's on a rookie contract and they invest the money into him again, this could be the start of another generation of running backs, bringing the meaning back to the position, and that's what running backs need to look at. There's a lot of great guys in college right now that we can look at, Nick Singleton, Blake Corum, just to name a few, that will be great running backs within the next few years, and Bijan Robinson and even Jahmyr Gibbs too, who was a first-round pick this year, will be very interesting to look at overall, because these teams could invest into the run game, as both teams have a solid quarterback overall. I would say the Falcons definitely don't have a great quarterback, but I do think the Lions have a good quarterback with a good defense and a good team surrounding them, but the Falcons will probably invest all of their time and playbook into Bijan Robinson this year, as I think they should. I think the biggest determiner of what is going to happen with running backs in the NFL in the future is what we will see from college football for the next 10 to 15 years, as this is usually how the NFL plays out. So many national contenders every year have great running backs, and if we continue to get great running back talent, it will be undeniable that teams will have to start paying these running backs, especially when they're coming out and getting drafted in the first round. College football has always been the biggest determiner of how the NFL will play out, because there's so many different teams in college football and colleges overall, and there's so many coaches with different schemes that some NFL teams try to adapt to that. So in 10 years, we could see a big shift in the NFL, with teams going more towards a run-heavy offense, and the NFL and football in general is always evolving. So if I was a running back or a big fan of the running back position, I wouldn't be too scared at this point, and we'll have to wait to see what happens next year. If guys like Saquon, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Derrick Henry continue to play at the level they are at, and they continue to stay healthy, then teams will have to pay them, like the Giants and the Raiders, and we will see a bunch of teams try to compete in the running back market next season. So with all this being said, I do think that there might be a problem right now with teams not wanting to pay them, but a lot of these reasons are justified by the teams overall, and I completely understand them. With the running back position being so versatile now, though, I do think we will see a shift, as so many running backs are great running the ball and catching the ball. And if there's undeniable talent, they will have to get paid, and the NFL's market might start to change within the next few years. So let me know what you guys think down below, and let me know who your favorite running back is right now. And I'll see you guys in the next one.